Listen to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, thank y'all for joining us a little early today. Our guest, Victoria, has multiple things to do, apparently. You have a meeting today, right?
I do. I am privileged to serve on the executive board of the North Central Texas Council of Governments. So basically, we're an organization of 16 counties, and I was selected 2 years ago to serve on that board, and now I'm in leadership, so I'm really excited.
What does that mean for Burleson?
It gives us a voice on a regional level. There hasn't been a representative from Burleson on that board in a number of years, and because of my work history, working at multiple levels of government, I had a preview into what the COG could accomplish, and it's elected officials from all over these 16 counties, the municipal level, townships, county, and it's very competitive to get on the board. And there are certain slots that are guaranteed, like the city of Fort Worth has a seat and the city of Dallas has a seat because they're big in population. But some of our other communities fall into population segments, and you have to compete. And so I fill the 50 plus and under seat, and it's just a tremendous honor. I serve with, like I said, elected officials who have lots of experience, who are new to the COG, and basically all state and federal funding for everything from transportation to wastewater to recycling, all the different types of projects. Federal government sends those dollars to the COGs, and there's COGs all over our state. And they say, look, here's this funding opportunity because they have a connection. They're closer to these communities. And then they put out calls for these funding opportunities. And it helps because we're all working together. Things that impact Burleson don't just stay within our four walls. Things that we implement or that are impacting us often are impacting our neighbors like Joshua or Mansfield. And so it's good that we're having these discussions as a group so that we're not reinventing the wheel. And when there's funding opportunities, it's easy for the big cities who have large staffs and are familiar with winning grants and things. They're equipped to heavily compete for these funding opportunities. But, there's times when some of our smaller communities might miss a chance or didn't put together an application that was as competitive as it could be. And that's where the COG can step in. They have established staff, people that have worked in all levels of government and with the COG they have so many employees of tenure. It's fascinating. They have a lot of knowledge and a lot of assistance toward counties and communities all throughout our area of coverage, and they help us. And so, one opportunity we talked about this week in council was a funding opportunity for sidewalks that TxDOT had recently in the fall had a call for projects, and we submitted what we believe was a really viable project. But we're submitting with, hundreds of other communities all throughout Texas. And while we thought we had a very competitive application, we didn't make the finals. And so when I'm at the COG today, it's one of the conversations I intend to have with Michael Morris and his group in the transportation area of saying, what other funding opportunities can we have? Are there funding things and outlets coming from the federal government that we can access with your help? How do we put together the most competitive application? And what truly is out of these projects? What do you think? Help us put ourselves in a position to win these dollars that help our community.
Speaking of impacting Burleson, let's talk about the sponsors.
Yeah.
Also, Alex Phillips says good morning.
Oh, good morning, Alex. Appreciate you. Oh, man, was Project UA.
Yes, I was going to mention that. I heard nothing but great things. We were at our networking meeting yesterday, my BNI group, and about 3 or 4 of them had been there. And they said it was astounding.
Astounding.
And they said it was just, Jeremy Bleeker, who's on the board of the chamber.
Yes, he was there. I saw him.
He said it was one of the very, very best seminars he's ever been to.
And I think it's hard to talk. Last year I was very impressed, but this year it just even more so. Each speaker resonates in a different way.
Well, I was going to bring that up in a different context because apparently y'all have outgrown the space for that.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so-
I'll let you plug your sponsors.
Yeah, I got. They pay
You
the
have to
bills.
pay
so,
bills.
yeah. But anyway, I was at our place twice last week, so
I don't blame you. It's
Yeah,
delicious.
it is, and I'll be there tomorrow because that's where I do my networking meetings. I'm meeting either potential sponsors or members of my networking group. We do it at our place because it's a great place to do those kind of things. It's the food's great, the service is great, but it just is a good atmosphere. I don't know. I know it's stressful in the kitchen, but it ain't stressful out where we're at, so it's all good. So thank you, Otto. Also, if you are looking for work, out there, he's hiring for Gina's Pizza, which should be open. His goal is within the next couple of weeks.
Wow, I can't wait.
Yeah, that's you're going to see a long line out there for
I'm
Gina's
sure.
Pizza.
And
yeah.
it just has made that strip that he's a part of just look so much cleaner and
yeah.
brighter.
Yes. Because he got the sign. We talked about that last time. Yeah.
We sure did.
All right. Also, thank you to Wild Cigar and Culture. They got lots going on. They have, I believe they have a event this weekend, if I remember right. I haven't talked to Nathan in a couple of weeks, but they have usually have not sponsors, vendors. That's the word I want. Yeah, vendors come in for specials and whatever else, and they have a pretty stocked humidor. And so it's a nice place to go there, even if you don't like cigars as such, but people that do, great for gifts. Also, you can have a drink, you can talk and visit. They got a patio area. You have meetings there. You have a meeting area. It's very, very nice. Probably the nicest bar in Burleson, I would think. But
It's
I'm
classy
biased.
in there.
Yeah.
They did it well.
All right, and Tiffany Nico with Local Life. She'll be on the show. What is today? The 22nd. She'll be on about 2 weeks. She's going to be talking about that St. Patrick's Day pub crawl where
Fun.
everybody's inner Irishman comes out or something like
That's
that.
all right. Any excuse to celebrate.
Yeah, right. It's like Cinco de Mayo. I always tease everybody. It's like, oh, really? Viva, right? Because they're like,
Let's have a margarita.
Yeah, margarita. Whatever excuse will do. If they've had National Albanian Day. Prost. Anyway, that's German, actually. Local Life magazine is coming out in about 10 days. It's always great. I think this month's, if I remember right, is on real estate, and they have those local loves. It's really a great magazine. And
I
I'll
like
look
reading
forward
the
to it.
articles,
Yeah, I do too.
the highlights on
And to go to 30,000
different.
homes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably see some ads for campaigns. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. Anyway, also talking to Southern Jim with Gala. Did Mr. Johnson come through on Valentine's Day?
He did pretty good.
Okay.
I didn't get jewelry, but I got a cup.
A cup. Okay. Well, okay.
Valentine's Day is, I really make it more about the kids. Donuts in the morning. I send them to school all sugared up.
Thank you as a teacher.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like the day after Halloween. It's like, oh, my Lord. But anyway, Southern Gym is open right now. They got a big event coming up in May that Gayla's asked me to plug a little bit, the Kentucky Derby Day. That May 4th is going to be a busy day. It's election day.
It sure is.
And Lisa Schwartz has her Crazy 8 City on the Hill.
Sitting on a hill, yeah.
And this is going on around from 3 to 8, so you can make all three pretty easily. So lots going
just
on.
make the rounds.
Make the rounds, be a big shot. Okay, Southern Gym, repairs, appraisals, designs, and great inventory. Also, thank you to Two Maids. I just saw Brenda yesterday. She's really making an impact in business-wise here in Burleson. She's really expanded her Burleson operations, and I like to think it's because she advertises here, but it's also because she works really hard at it too.
That's awesome.
But they have a really good way of doing their business. So they come, they do the job, you rate them, that's how you pay them. It's not like a per set fee or an hourly thing or anything like that. It's so you pay them after the job is done, and so it's a pretty good program because a lot of people are taking her up on it. So 817-764-0733 or twomaidscleaning.com/Burleson, and she'll hook you up. Alex here, hang on, says, we can grow property you a little bit more, but we want to make sure we could serve the type of lunch that we have done in the past years. Is that what it's all about, is the lunch?
Well, no, I wouldn't say so. But there's the details that Alex and our economic development team have thought through for Project U, and lunch is a piece of that. It's served. You're not going through lines. He encourages everyone to transition from this big room. We moved over into the ARC at Pathway, and he says, just fill in the seats. And it's kind of like, it gives, the tables are set up long. It kind of gives you that family style dynamic. And then the plates come to you, and Rim did a fantastic job. The food was delicious.
Well, one thing I like about Pathways, they have a really great roof. Thanks to Old Pro Roofing. I don't know. I'm just segueing into it. But anyway, John Williams, 817-734-2756. He would ask you to remember that you only have a year to file insurance, and we're coming up on an anniversary of sorts. We had a major storm about mid-March last year, and if you haven't contacted your insurance company and you think, well, I'll just get around to it, you better get around to it pretty quick, because after a year, they'll turn you down. So, have John come out there, check your roof, see if you need something. They'll tell you what you need. If you don't need anything, they'll tell you that too. So call them, 817-734-2756. Also, Camco, Sammy Campbell, Candy Gal. The mortgage rates, hopefully, are coming down a little bit. They know more than I do. Candy is at 817-925-2661. Sammy's at 817-778-4592. They both have done this for at least 20 years. I've used them twice in other places, and they always do great service. I'm really glad they have their own outfit now, because it's, the business, is kind of unstable sometimes, and so now they said, the heck with all this stuff. We're going to do it ourselves, and it's a really good thing. So also, we got a couple of nonprofits that need a little bit of attention, I suppose. One is Next Step Women's Center. This is Giving Month. Every donation you give is doubled up to $15,000. So they have a matching fund, and they have all these plans. They also have their Walk for Life in April. But if you are inclined to give to Next Step, it's going to be twice as good this time. So it's a good thing. Also, my friend Eric Vyers over at Reach across Johnson County, they're doing a prom pop-up. So if you have an old prom dress or a tuxedo, that you don't use anymore.
And jewelry, like dress
yes.
up stuff, shoes.
They provide this for young people who may not have the wherewithal to do it themselves, because, prom is a big deal, isn't it?
It is, and especially in Texas.
And especially in smaller towns.
It's kind of like your last hurrah to get all dressed up with the classmates that you may have grown up with all of these years. It's special, and it's memories.
Was yours at the Ridgely Country Club?
It was.
Okay, because I know we did that for many years, then went to the Worthington. Hang on, put that back up, please. I didn't read all this stuff. I just got down memory lane. But anyway, it's on between February 29th and March 1st. You can, at First Baptist in Burleson, drop them off, and you can, there's going to be, that's also when those dresses and tuxedos and whatnot will be made available. Okay, so when they have one in Waxahachie, they have one in Cleburne, but for us, February 29th through March 1st, that's the Thursday and Friday of next week.
It's coming up.
Yeah, so if you want to get rid of a dress that still is in good shape, but you don't. How often did you wear your prom dress?
Once.
Once, right? Does it still have it?
No. I did
donate it?
one of these exact type of events.
Well, that's good for you.
I got rid of all the dress up stuff, and even makeup. Because as women, we get samples and all kinds of stuff when you shop, like Ulta or wherever, and I collect those and then I give them to events like this.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. I would spend much time in that.
I know you don't get much eyeshadow and lip gloss.
I got rid of that a while back. Ever since David Bowie died, I said, well, I'm out. Anyway, so there you go. Let's talk about taxes. Okay. I had Dan on here Monday, and I was referring to another guest, Matthew Lucci, who was on the show, who apparently, I didn't make the connection until later, that he had visited one of our meetings and was protesting taxes. There's the picture, no new taxes. I'm like, did I miss something? I didn't realize y'all even talk about new taxes. Now, I know the tax bills probably are higher because of the appraisal, but y'all have cut the rates significantly over the last
This was our
4 or 5 years.
This was our fifth consecutive year to lower our tax rate.
Yeah.
Appraisals are up. We're a growing area, all of Johnson County, but appraisals are up, and so your tax bill may have been higher, but the city's portion, our tax rate was reduced. Well,
and so I was kind of went back on that meeting, and I kind of heard the conversation a little bit, and I'm like, there must be something else that I'm missing, because I did not hear y'all talk about increasing tax rates. Now, again, like we talk about, the appraisals make the bill a little bit higher. And then, of course, you had that massive cut from the state. And does that directly affect y'all? I know it affected the schools.
Schools.
Yeah.
That was in.
Yeah, that's another deal.
Right.
I haven't really seen the impact yet, but I'm afraid what might happen in a couple of years. However, it's not so much I'm afraid that the rates will not allow the schools to be able to be funded, but they based it on a promise that they would continue increasing educational funding. I don't know how much I trust Dan Patrick to increase educational funding. A couple of years from now, they say, "Oh well, that was then." That's why I was concerned about it, and I did vote for it.
Yeah.
Because, besides that, they had the teacher retirement increase, which was for me not very much.
I think it was Prop 9.
Yeah, Prop 9. It wasn't very much at all. But as far as I was concerned about that, but back to the city, because it didn't really affect the city that much.
No, sir.
What was he talking about? About new taxes? Did we raise?
We did not raise taxes.
Did you raise new fees?
After that, that was our tax rate when we passed our tax rate, which we lowered and have continued, like I said, consecutively for 5 years. But following that, we put together a citizen committee to review all of our fees, like development fees, road impact, water, wastewater, and to evaluate the potential of implementing new fees, such as we don't currently have a wastewater or a water runoff fee. And so, and that's something I'm still trying to understand. How do you even evaluate how much runoff a development has or a neighborhood? I don't even know how you begin to do that, but there's people, engineers that can figure all of that out. And so we did over the next couple of meetings talk about hiring a consulting firm that can tell us if that fee would even be substantial to the city, and what the numbers might look like, if it's even worth implementing, is it not? How do surrounding communities that do have that fee, how do they leverage it? Because we purchase our water from the city of Fort Worth. So there's an element of our water bill that we cannot control. It comes from Fort Worth. They have the water treatment plants. They treat it, they send it to us. And so it's our responsibility to have the infrastructure in for that. And we have aging water infrastructure, and we also have areas of new growth. And we're really going to have to lean on our comprehensive plan to say, okay, these areas where we have residential, are we planning for the adequate infrastructure to support water as it grows? And then even more so, the areas that are going to have industrial or commercial, can we supply them with the water pressure and the water flow that they need? So that committee, and it was made up of citizens. We had realtors and developers and all different types of professions represented on that committee. And they came forward with the recommendation that we were significantly behind in our fee structure. We hadn't raised things like water impact, wastewater impact, and particularly road impact fees almost since their implementation. And so we were significantly behind. And there's some give and take. You want to continue being, we pride ourselves in being a developer-friendly community. We want people to come here and build your business. We want people employed in Burleson. But there's still an element of, when you're coming to town, what is going to be the impact on the existing road infrastructure? Are you going to have, how many cars do you anticipate? Are you going to have heavy loads? Are you going to have 18-wheelers? They have to look at all of that and determine, our citizens have already, existing citizens have paid for this infrastructure. It is understandable for anything incoming to have a stake in that and keeping it up and appropriately maintaining whatever that roadway may be. An item we looked at on Tuesday evening, was asking for a rezone. They want to expand their business. And one of the things when somebody's trying to rezone, we have to look at, is the infrastructure there? And the road that leads to this piece of land is caliche. It's dirt, it's gravel.
Right.
And so when you're thinking about, our comprehensive plan specifically said this area is what and when you make a plan, it's kind of like your wish list, like what we hope will go there, what fits the best. And it's expected to be more of a residential area. So we know that the water pipes that are heading that direction, the wastewater collection, the infrastructure that we have planned for that area is more residential aimed. And so if we go and kind of veer off of that, there's so many more things that we have to look at before going, yeah, I think that looks good for commercial or that looks good for industrial, but what about the infrastructure surrounding it and what we have planned? Will we be able to handle the significant upgrades that it would take? And one of those is roads. And so when you look at any of those types of requests, can the road that's leading to it, or are you going to be willing to, as a incoming developer, are you going to be willing to upgrade that road? And sometimes the answer is that they don't have the money to be able to do that or the capacity to be able to do that. But that's all things we have to consider.
These fees, though, you were talking about impacting the developers more.
Correct.
Are any of these fee increases going to directly affect the citizens?
I think current citizens,
Yes.
when you're looking at roadway, that's for new development. So someone that's building a house here in Burleson or will build a house or will build a business, that is who it's going to impact. And I'm not going to say that some of these developers won't pass that on to their clients, the people that they're working with, but...
Well, I'm sure they will, but I'm just saying... Just a general citizen out in Burleson,
No.
are any of these fees increasing? Like the water, the trash pickup, any of that?
Well, water and trash did go up this year. Mm-hmm. Trash is separate, but it's on that same bill.
Right.
Our trash collection went up last budget just because of the increase in cost. We in Burleson still have bag pickup. And a lot of companies have moved away from that because it is cheaper to have a truck that picks up a can and dumps it versus paying for the 3 people on a truck that it requires to pick up bags. And so when the company that Waste Connections, that's our contractor right now for trash pickup, when they came to us and said, look, we have increase in fuel, we have increase in personnel cost. This is what it's going to cost to keep up your service, or we're going to have to break our contract. And we're in the middle of a fiscal budget. It's not something we had really but also it's a service that truly has to be evaluated before we make significant changes to it. The citizens have to be educated on, what do we have now? Are you willing to pay for the continued service, or do you want it? Are you willing to change to cans? Is it 1 day a week? Is it 2 days a week? Adam on a council often refers to his parents where they live in Fort Worth. They get trash service 1 day a week, and it has to be in a can, and you only get 1 can. So, things like that. It just, when you're contracting this stuff out, you're kind of beholden to what opportunities are really presented to you. So we'll probably put out, or to review options, you have to put out an RFP, a request for proposal, and say, okay, all of you vendors, what type of service can you offer us? And we're going to have to evaluate when the time comes of what's going to actually be acceptable to our citizens, because we expect a certain level of service, and are we willing to pay for that, or are we willing to make a couple of adjustments to save some here?
I know my fees have gone up almost double since COVID. Yeah, a bunch. And I get it 1 day a week. I have a big bucket, and you put multiple bags in it, but it's out in the country. It's for public waste, but it's gone up. I remember, getting sticker shock one time when they just raised it from almost like 20%.
Goodness.
Yeah, and so that's part of it.
We try to be, we're very cognizant when we're going to adjust anything, how incrementally, if it has to be adjusted, how incrementally we can adjust it so that it's not such sticker shock, but we do have to pay for the service. And like I said, we're going to have to take it to the citizens and say, if we moved to cans only, is that something that you'd be amenable to? Or do you still really want bags? And all of that has to be weighed and weigh the level of service. All of that has to be taken into consideration. It's almost like we look at a formula and go from there. And then as far as water, as I mentioned, we purchased that from Fort Worth, and they raised their impact fees on us. So we're paying more for the water, and we have kept our water fees down for citizens, for water users in the city of Burleson. We've kept that down because we had a surplus in that fund, and it's self-sustaining. So it's not a fund we can use for anything else, and it's just for water and wastewater. And there was a surplus in there, and over, I don't even know how many years now, we've been drawing down that because it was unnecessary. It's not because it's essentially a pass-through. Fort Worth sends us our bill. We pay the bill for all the users that are using that water. And so we didn't need the money sitting in that account. That's unfair to our users. So we were drawing down that balance. And now we're to a point where, okay, like we have to catch up to what Fort Worth is charging us. We can no longer cover the excess. So there was a gap that we were filling with the balance of that fund. So, you know, we looked at it and said, okay, we don't want to gouge people and say right off the bat, it needs to be a 20% increase. And I'm just saying that, how can we phase this in? Is it 2% this budget, 2% the next? You know, we looked at that and we kind of set a plan over the next however many years to reach. But it doesn't mean that every single year Fort Worth may say, okay, it's costing us more to treat this water. It's costing us more to get it to you. Now here's an increase in fees on our end too.
You know, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. They just think, you know, that sometimes city councils don't look into it. We've been doing this show together for, over a year and a half. And I really am amazed at all the details a city council person has to be aware of. You know, and we can talk about that as part of your re-election campaign, because I really do think that people don't understand just the minutiae sometimes of having to make these kind of decisions based on all these moving parts.
There are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, right.
And I enjoy digging into that type of information.
That's why I talk to you. I'll let you do all the heavy lifting.
Then it is my responsibility as a representative of this city and of this county to be that voice and help connect the people to the decisions that we're making, because it's not in haste. You know, sometimes things draw out a little longer than we would really like. And I'm very aware of the reputation that sometimes government has of dragging things out, but we want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. And it takes looking at a study, having a third party go, this is how that impact fee is going to help you or hurt you or not, leave you at status quo. And we are growing. We have to upgrade the infrastructure that's moving water through this community and taking water back to Fort Worth from this community. And we have to look at things like, trash pickup affects how we all live our daily lives.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want that stuff blowing around in the streets. And so
critters running around.
Yeah, we have opinions. And so we just definitely need to take it to the people and figure out, what are you willing to, what are you expecting and what are you willing to pay for?
There's also another study that's, got some people stirred up a little bit. And I was talking to Dan about this as well, and that's that library study.
Sure.
And for the life of me, I don't understand why this is a big deal, because cities do studies like this all the time, and not every study comes to ultimate fruition, right?
Right.
You know, sometimes at the end of the day, you'll say, well, yes or no. You know, in the library, even if y'all went for it in your next meeting, it'd still be a decade before those doors would open. And you'd have a very difficult path to get there you obviously have to pass a bond to do it.
At this point, we don't have the debt capacity to proceed with that. We are not in a position to even take this to a bond. We're not there. We don't have, we have $5 million available in debt capacity for the next 5 years. $5 million is not going to build that library.
It's not even
we are going to have to pay things down, continue to grow so that more comes in. It's a balancing act. Those decisions will not be made in haste. It is going to have to go to the people.
Oh, sure.
And that every single element of our community does and has had at some point a study to tell us, what are you providing currently? What are competitive cities providing? What could you be providing? What is your city looking for you to provide? And how do you get there? And that had never been done for the library in its existence. So we needed to know, were they numbers that were scary? Absolutely. But that's given what our current situation is, that we need to work through the current bond package that we just passed 2 years ago. We told the citizens that they were going to get roadways and public safety upgrades, and we need to come through on what we've already promised the citizens with this bond package. Then as we pay that debt down and other debt that's been outstanding, as we continue to pay that stuff down, and it increases our ability for capacity, and as we continue to grow, that'll increase our capacity as well for debt, then we can look at something like this. But all along that way, we're having public input, public meetings. Just on the 27th, I believe, we will have, let me confirm that. Yes, the 27th at the City Hall Annex. So it's across from City Hall, our new annex that we completed in the Ellison Street development. We will have a public design meeting, and I encourage citizens to come to that. That is, of course, I close it before I look at the time, 5:30 to 7:30 on February 27th. That's just an initial meeting to start talking about the land that the city owns on the west side of town. It's 55 acres, and but those facility studies, such as looking at the library, and we do these, like I said, for every department of the city. We're in this budget. There's many other departments that we've never had a facility study done for, and so they will be included in that too. And so we can look at our assets. What do we currently have in this city? And the way we're growing, what will we need to continue to serve this city? And again, similarly to I said about water and trash, we have to ask the citizens, what type of service do you want and what are you willing to pay for? And it's up to this community to decide what we do and what we provide.
There was a couple of things that kind of annoyed me, frankly, about the library quote controversy with the air quotes. One is that, do we really need a library? And I'm like, are you kidding me? We are a growing community with a lot of families, and that library, I guess in their minds, they were thinking they're still checking out books. No, that library is used for multiple things. You were talking about last time about how, you took your small children there and read to them and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, that kind of experience is what we expect from a vibrant, growing community.
Right.
And also all the arts and crafts classes and that stuff for teenagers and on and on and on. It's like, come on. This isn't the 1950s.
And that study showed us more things that we could be doing. Is it a Waymaker space? Is it STEAM? Do we have something like similar to a science lab where children are learning science and technology? We have quite a homeschool community.
Yes, we do.
In Burleson and so in the surrounding communities, Joshua. And, there's things that this community is asking for. And so that's what we'll have all these public meetings for, their input. I said in our last, I think very highly of our library. I think they use the space that they have to the utmost of their ability. They use every inch of it. And the complaints that they hear, such as noise or not being able to find, study space, that's a result of it being such a popular place to be. And I think our library also plays a role in this community feel. That's where I made a lot of my mom friends, going to these story times and where they brought in the specialists to, visit with parents while the kids are playing, learning how to play and giving parents tools to work through things like when your child is having issues reading or with math or playing with others. There's so much. But, every time I hear this community is growing exponentially and they're worried about us losing our identity, it's having spaces like the library, the plaza,
right,
the parks, where we come together and get to know our neighbors and do things as a community. That's how we keep that small town feel. That's how we stay connected with our neighbors. That's how we get to know. And, at Project U, one of the speakers said something to the effect of like, when you see people, then you can connect with them, and people want to be seen. People want that sense of community. And that's where Burleson can really thrive, is being the hometown where there's something for you.
The second thing that I thought was, is this really a big deal, is the idea of moving it west from its current location a decade from now over to closer to Chisholm Park and Chisholm Trail and all that business. Why is that an issue? I mean, I don't understand what the issue is there.
And I'm not, I personally am not set that it has to move.
Right.
But that's what these public input is going to tell us. I wanted to know, and I believe Councilmember Scott asked a question along these lines of, when the surveys initially went out, because there were a couple of online surveys that people took as part of this facility study. And it was like, one of the questions was, would you be, how would you feel about an annex, like a sub library and a main library, or do you just want one library? And his question was, well, did you specifically say, do you want it where it's currently located, or would you be okay with it if it moved? And so that's something we need to hear from the citizens of it. I took a step back even and thought, okay, who's really utilizing this library? Is it more beneficial to keep it at its location? These are all things we're going to get to weigh along the way. But nothing has been decided. That's the best part, is there's 55 acres of a blank slate, and we get to look citywide. What do we have? What do we wish we had? What do we need to serve this community as it grows to its 100,000 and some population eventually? And how do our citizens have a level of service that they enjoy with the library, with trash pickup, whatever it may be. And every time we're considering a service, we have to look at where it's at and where it's going.
Well, Fort Worth faced this situation, so to speak. The downtown library is no longer there. They sold it, and we're not Fort Worth citizens, but I've been in that library a few times, and and it was landmark downtown. But I'm sure they had some pushback against it. But they sold that property to a private developer, and they moved their libraries out further into the community. And I just was thinking, that piece of property the library's on is fairly valuable now. Same thing with just about any public space or church space on main thoroughfares. That's pretty valuable stuff. And I thought, just maintaining the library where it's at, it's still going to have to be expanded greatly.
It is.
There's no chance it's going to be able to equip itself to be able to take care of all the people that we're moving in.
Right. And the people that utilize it.
Yes.
I mean, that survey was really neat. I believe it said 1 in every 4 households in the city of Burleson have a library card.
Sure. Did you use it in school?
Oh, yes.
Okay, see.
I love the library.
Yeah, no.
But I'm really geeky about books, and not just books. Our library, you can check out camping gear.
Right.
My kids really want to check out a, what is it called when you look up at the stars? Telescope.
Telescope, yes.
Yes. I mean, there's so much. You can check out pans to bake and cookbooks. And I mean, there's just so many things. It's
interesting.
Where you need
cooking gear.
Yeah. Baking sheets and pans and things to, there's so much information, but again, it goes back for me, it's that sense of community and we'll do it right. The citizens can come together and determine, what do we want to see? We need to make this decision together.
I just remember when I was a young man, I was living in Richardson at the time. We had a library within walking distance. It was a 2-story library, the Richardson Public Library. And I went there a lot.
Yeah.
And, I read a lot as a kid, still do. But I thought that was normal. And then when I was a student at UTA, even a grad student, I spent a lot of time in the Arlington Public Library because they had all those periodicals I could use to research and whatever. So I just thought, the idea of us either being satisfied with the status quo or not even having one, it's just a ludicrous idea. And in fact, it was might move to the west. Well, as Dan was pointing out, what's going to be the town center 10, 15 years from now? There's going to be a lot of people over there. And you talk about community. One of the things that he was talking about, he said he doesn't want you have sub-communities.
Yes. We don't want 2 Burlesons. The cool thing about this land is where it's located, how we grow over here. It can serve as a place to bring people together so that we don't have 2 separate communities. The school district showed us when they built Centennial High School exactly what separating a community can look like. And we're still not healed from that in some ways. It's the haves and the have-nots. And I don't think there's a person that sits on council currently that wants to dance around that idea that we're encouraging a separate Burleson. There's so much opportunity with this land. What do we truly want to do with it? And what can we check off our list of continuing to serve our citizens with? And maybe it includes a new library. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the library stays where it's at and there's opportunity to expand it there somewhere down the road. The walkability piece, you mentioned that is what's sticking with me, is I want to make sure our library is located and is accessible to pedestrian traffic, that you can walk in. I loved when Kerr was located at the old high school because droves of kids would come from there and go over there to play video games and have teen time and read and check out and do all kinds of things, research for projects. And so that's, I just want to make sure we don't lose that too. If we potentially relocated it, can the people that truly need to access it by foot that they can.
Well, what's going to happen if you do have these isolated little pockets of communities, so to speak, is that you're going to be, as a council person, constantly in that pull and tug between, well, they got this, we want that. And I could, like you mentioned with the two schools, that really was the case. Now, I know that under Jimerson the last few years, they've been a whole lot more intentional about trying to create one district and all that, but it's still, for a long time, there was us and them. And I mean, I sat in meetings for like booster clubs and stuff like that. And that's all I'd hear.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Centennial got all this. How come we don't? And that's why we have 2 indoor practice facilities, things of that nature.
Because you want things, you want it to be one district. We want this to be one community. However that land ends up looking, whatever it ends up holding, my image of it is that it brings the community. It's just another place, a centralized place of gathering, that there's things there for everyone and a reason for the community to come together in that space.
There is something I guess I didn't really kind of alert you. I was going to ask you about this, but I brought it up with Dan kind of suddenly as well. So we don't have mass transit in Burleson, and I'm not advocating we get, like a light rail system here because, I don't want a roundabout.
It's in the billions of dollars.
Right,
it's just not even feasible for us.
Right, but there are ways we could have mass transit without light rail or a full-on bus system. But we could, some sort of a shuttle system, whatever, and go to the various areas because, not that I would use it a lot, but sometimes
but you might hop on.
I might like to say you had one that left for Old Town and went to the HEB Kroger area. I might do that because I don't want to drive all the way over there. It's a beat down, particularly
Fine parking.
Yeah, and all this
that
other
HEB
stuff.
parking lot.
Yeah, I really like using the train. I take it to Dallas and then get on the Dart and all this other stuff, and
But did you know that we already have a contract with a transportation company? It's called Cletran.
Right, he mentioned that, but I'd never see it.
That's it. And it actually came up in our council planning meeting a week or so ago, that the ridership is actually higher than most people would think, but there's so much of our community that doesn't know that it's available to them.
I don't know.
You can often see it parked in the Walmart parking lot because it stays like toward the back. That's kind of its, holding spot for a little bit. But Cletran, we already, it's not a significant, it's not to serve, I don't think, every element of our community, but that's something we could explore because it kind of stays like in the highly populated 174. I don't know where all it goes, but that's something we all need to educate ourselves on as council members is where is it going currently? What do the routes look like? Or are they just when I worked out of Cleburne, I knew that they had the contract with Burleson. That's how old it is. It's been very ongoing. And at the time it was more like a call for service. And I don't know if they're able to maintain that because then you don't know what your ridership's going to look like. So it may be more standardized routes now, which we all need to understand better. But getting that information out to the citizens so that you can, if rather than moving your car from Walmart just when you're going to go over here or over here, I love to just hop on and let somebody else drive and say, okay, I'm along for the ride.
That's exactly right. That's why I take the trains when I go to visit my friends over in Plano, mostly, or McKinney. Because, does it take longer? Sure, but I don't have to worry about the traffic. No one's going to,
Right.
I don't have to worry about wrecks. I don't have to worry about, somebody, getting, stalled car and it backs up I-30 for 10 miles. And I just sit there and I read, or something like that. Look out the window.
Right. But especially that goes back to big on making this a community for everyone. There's a population in our town that don't have access to vehicles. There's certain areas of our town that are not exactly pedestrian friendly. So if there is a tool that we can put out to them to say, here's this, utilize this to safely cross 174, to safely get from A to B if you live over in this neighborhood and then you just walk from this hub to over here. There's an element of our community that could greatly benefit from this resource. And that is our job as a city to say, this is available to you. Utilize it. How can we help you to better utilize it?
How many times do you hear on a weekly basis people complaining about the traffic here in Burleson?
Oh, all the time.
And that's particularly around 174, around the school administration building and all that. It just, if you could lighten a few cars off that with some mass transit, it would be helpful. And some people have a negative connotation of mass transit because it's for somebody else. And why am I paying for it? or they see big city mass transit systems as a money suck and that kind of thing. I have a much brighter opinion, not brighter, like more intelligent, a much better opinion. That's a better way to put it. A much better opinion about mass transit, because I think it does help with some of these issues you're talking about. And, and I consider myself sort of green, if we could cut down on some of the emissions, okay. I'm not going to buy an electric car, Taylor. I'm just saying. But anyway, whatever. Anyway, but I'm just saying that if we could knock off at least 5% or 10% of the traffic load on Wilshire, that'd be very helpful.
It's definitely something to consider.
And when we go to Cleburne, most of the time, what are we going to do?
Going to the courthouse.
Going to the courthouse, and if
going to file some kind of paperwork at the courthouse.
Right.
So that is a very reasonable, just a simple route to the courthouse.
Also, a lot of older kids that go to the Hill College over in Cleburne as well, which is not very far. Are you running close on time, dear?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. But
all right. Well, I'll get you out of here in time.
Oh, no.
But
Sir. I was just checking.
I don't know if there's any real push right now on the council or from the citizens about what we're talking about here. But to me personally, if I had the ability to be on the council, that's something I would push for.
Right.
Now, would I get it? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's things you'd love to have.
As I mentioned, it is there. We have to do a better job of publicizing it and utilizing the resource that is there and exploring. A big sticking point for me staying on council is I truly want to address and alleviate traffic concerns. We are all sitting on 174 and we're growing. And if we don't, as a town, if we don't grow, we're losing out on opportunities. But if we grow in a way that is smart and we're looking broadly at these transportation issues, how we move water, and focusing on our infrastructure, we can grow in a way that we don't lose our character. We adequately move cars, move water, move people. And so we can work through some of these things. We're just gonna have to work through it together and look at the big picture. I wanted to say also similar years and years and years ago, they'd established a trans-oriented district because they were looking at options to alleviate traffic off 35.
Right.
And similar to what you're saying, we need to look at options for alleviating traffic off 174. And I am really passionate about that. And I believe a number of my colleagues are for this upcoming budget of prioritizing how we can finish road projects that were, are they 2 lanes now? Could they be 4 lanes? Expanding what we currently have, looking for funding sources. And that's where I am in a unique position sitting on the COG executive board to hear of these opportunities, to appropriately advocate for Burleson and our surrounding communities in Johnson County to say, we need help. This is what this is our skin in the game, but in order to carry some of these projects all the way through, we need we could greatly benefit in advancing them on a timeline if we have federal and or state funding to help us get there faster.
And your position on COG may help along with that.
Yes.
Well, that's just been something I've been thinking about because, I had plenty of time to think about it when I went to HEB because I got to butt my way through the traffic. In fact, when I go to HEB from my house now, I take a country route, so to speak, 714, which
Dobson.
is not going to be available much longer because they're building a big development out there near Russell Art Farm.
Well, it is going to pay. I mean, that's been going on for a while, and I don't even know, what their timeline is. Dobson is a very common route to get around 174.
Right.
My parents live off of 714. We're on that road a lot. I use it to get around to do business over in the Kroger and HEB area as well. And so that is on a long-term plan to expand to a 4-lane road. How do we move that up a little? Clearly 174 needs some alleviation, but first and foremost, we have to get control of the roads that are in our jurisdiction from TxDOT. We can't do things without getting from under TxDOT's thumb.
Yes, that's true there. I
mean, we can have, where it has been appropriate, we've tried to advance things for TxDOT and say, hey, look, in-house, we'll do the engineering or we'll do this piece if you can do this piece. And then TxDOT's so overwhelmed. And, but it goes back to relationships. And I'm very proud of the mayor for sticking out olive branches and saying, hey, we're not just Burleson. You're not just Cleburne. We all have to leverage together and become one voice for Johnson County to say, pay attention to us down here. And having a position on the COG speaks volumes. And once I got elected, I knew I was going to gun for one of those seats because it's important to be heard. And if you're not on some of these boards, if you're not having a presence, you kind of get overlooked. And Burleson, as I mentioned, hadn't had a presence on that board in a long time. And, I got elected, and then I said, you're approached about like, what do you want to be involved in at the Texas Municipal League level, at the National Cities League level? And I really said, I want to focus on regional stuff because where there's opportunity to not have to reinvent the wheel, that's a good thing. We can share ideas. We can share resources.
Mr. Phillips says Johnson County is the 5th fastest growing county of the last 2 years in the Metroplex. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
Maybe probably Collin County is the fastest, but I bet we're right there with them. We're getting close on time, though. We'll go ahead and finish your thought.
I was just going to say,
Finish your thought.
Dan, myself, and Alex are serving on that steering committee for the county master thoroughfare plan. But again, if we don't have our plans in place, if we're not all communicating together to have a stronger voice for our region, then we're going to get overlooked. And these dollars are competitive. And the great thing about me being on that COG board, where I'm heading shortly after this, I chair the audit committee, and then afterward, I will have our general meeting where we're going to look at a number of grant things that came before us. And but it's being present and having relationships, and I'm very proud that I have those, and I have the opportunity to represent Burleson at that level.
Well, let's talk about the campaign. You have an opponent whom I have no idea.
Sure.
And I'm not having comment because I don't know this person, so it doesn't matter. Oh, well, Alex says Coffin County is the fastest. Johnson's faster than Collin County.
Wow.
How about that?
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I wouldn't have either.
Alex has a wealth of knowledge.
He is. No, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about what you want to run for, and I could tell just right now that the traffic issues are one, and also, I know
Sidewalks are number 2.
Really, sidewalks?
Yes. We've got to have safe routes to schools. Have you ever driven in the neighborhoods that are where the old Fraser is, what is now Steam? There's kids walking in the street. It's just not safe. Look at Summercrest. That should have had sidewalks. We have the brick had upgraded sidewalks, and then it just stops. And then the kids are left in what? Walk through somebody's yard and be disrespectful or tear something up, unnecessary or unintentionally, or walk in the street and get run over. And Summercrest it's busy.
Yes,
and
it
so
is.
There's so many areas of our community that we need to step up our sidewalk game. We have to get these kids out of the streets. People are walking their animals and dogs, and cars are parked in the street, so you're dodging things. So I would say traffic alleviation and sidewalks are two of the big things that I want to work on and try to accomplish in this next term.
Well, I also know how fond, shall we say, you are of the parks.
Sure.
Right now, that's kind of been put on the back burner, it sounds like.
I don't believe it's been put on the back burner. We approved something, a new playground for a new play set, and what that's going to look like for a neighborhood park on Tuesday night, where I believe we got on the right track of adequately planning for those upgrades. Well, over a 5-year period, we planned out, based on the budget, we can upgrade this many parks. We've got this much money, so let's do this many parks. And we've got this much money for next year's budget. I think we've appropriately addressed and planned for the things that need to happen in our parks. And I am beyond proud. The park that play set that we approved Tuesday night, it's artificial turf, so there's easier access in wheelchairs and walkers. Grandparents can take their grandkiddos to play, and you're not having to navigate wood chips or you can access things. And we have really put a focus on having all accessible equipment and a little bit of something for everyone. And I'm really proud of our parks department and the things. But again, we need citizen input when we send out those surveys, when we have something available at, if it's a public meeting at City Hall or in your neighborhood. What we really try to do is step those up of, this park's coming to your neighborhood. Can you weigh in on what you'd like to see here? Because it's in your backyard. And so I'm really proud of and I think that they're on the right path. I think we gave that the appropriate focus. So now it's time to focus on some other areas.
You, what kind of campaigning or style of campaigning you do? You going to get your old signs back out? Are you going to?
I got a quote on signs yesterday, so all of that will get kicked into gear. But you mentioned I have an opponent, and you know what? It makes me really proud and happy that people want to be involved in this community. And if that's at the council level, wonderful. If that's on a board, a commission, we are a better community when people are involved and people are hands-on and invested.
Well, it did surprise me that the school board races are all unopposed. And I like the people that are going to be serving another 3 years, so I have no problem with that. It just bugs me when you have unopposed races and then people bellyache about, this schools or the city or whatever else. Well, apparently it's...
But it takes a lot of courage to put your name on that ballot.
Yeah, it does. And you, as we remember from 2.5 years ago, sometimes elbows are thrown. And hopefully
I hope it's not.
I don't think it will. I really don't.
I really don't either. I think our community has healed so much. Our council works together so well. We are respectful to one another. We value each other's opinions, even if it's opposing from what one of us may have. And we're making better decisions for the city because of that.
Well, I was kind of teasing Daniel. Slogan should be, make Burleson boring again. What's
so funny is there's some former council members that say that, no one used to watch our meetings. No. You realize how boring our job used to be?
It will.
That's an impact of growth and new eyes and new perspectives. And that's a good thing. We don't want a community that's not growing. It's, there's so much negative that can come from just missed opportunities that can come from not growing and valuing new opinions and new perspectives.
I would tell the listening audience, don't pay attention to that one or two cranks on Facebook. That's not indicative of the whole community or the campaign.
I say reach out. I'm here. I'm available. My cell phone's posted on the website, on the city's website, and I'm launching my campaign site very soon. My cell phone's out. And I know it's not always easiest to be like, hey, let me call this person up. But or text me and say, let's meet for a coffee. I'm available to visit about anything and everything that the city's currently doing. But more importantly, the campaign is a time to connect with people. Once I'm a seated official, when I'm out and about, I'm representing the city and I'm educating on what we're doing and, things that have recently been on an agenda or assisting with an issue that is going on in a neighborhood or with a pothole or whatever it may be. But the campaign time is time to connect with me as an individual and with the community members. And it's just kind of invigorating time. And I'm really excited.
Well, I've been offering this to all the other candidates who've been on this show. Besides, I had Mr. Lucci on twice. I had Mr. Good on. I had Mr. Han on. What I said to them is, look in that camera right there.
Yeah.
And give us a 2-minute commercial. And you could use that for whatever purposes you want.
Oh, well, I have been honored to serve on city council for the last 2.5 years. I grew up here. I'm invested here. I'm raising my children here. I want this to be the community that you're proud to call home. And I want there to be something for everyone. I'm dedicated to working on transportation issues and sidewalks, moving traffic. We have some big decisions to make. And I think that the current council, I'm very proud of the way we work together. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to serve with them. I hope that I'll be your consideration to consider serving or to continue serving in Place One, because it is truly an honor. I love the work and I'm dedicated to the work. And I only see more great things happening for our wonderful community, and especially in the additional roles that I've been able to be involved with the COG, with the Johnson County Master for Thoroughfare Planning. I think I have a unique position to be able to give us some spotlight, not just what we're doing locally, but what we can accomplish regionally.
Well, that was good. And
thanks, because I did that off the cuff. I wasn't expecting a 2-minute interview.
I know.
Or a 2-minute segue.
Well, next week I have a couple other candidates running. Alexa Boddicker is going to be on Monday, whom I've never met. I understand that y'all are at least acquainted, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I have Tim Good on again. this has been a busy month. I've really enjoyed having the shows.
bet.
I had Dwayne Burns. Dadgummit, I did that earlier today. Dwayne Burns on a week ago. I had, besides Lucci, Mr. Lucci, I've had Mr. Good on once and going to have him on again. And I've had y'all, and it's really going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
A lot of good conversations, a lot of fun things happening in Burleson and our community, surrounding communities. So
I'm getting texted right now from Dwayne Burns. No joke.
I appreciate this show giving us this opportunity to hear from people.
That's quite all right.
In our community.
What was happening is Mr. Burns called me the wrong name in a text, and he's apologizing. I'm like, hey, I've been called worse
on
than that.
air, I just called you a wrong name.
No, he didn't do that. He just sent a text and used the wrong name, but I've invited him back again, but he's really, really busy, and so
it's a busy time.
Yeah. So
hey, early voting is going on right now for that primary, so go vote and then be prepared. Early voting for the city council race that is on Saturday, May 4th. Early voting starts in April. Our city secretary's office has done a fabulous job of having a one-stop shop poster that tells you times, location, everything.
All right, and it's making sure it's Dwayne Burns. All right, whom I endorse. All right, I make no secret to that. I really endorse him. I endorse you as well. And
Thank you. I appreciate the support.
And it's not a comment about your opponent in any way whatsoever. I just know you and know what a great job you've done.
Thank you.
All right, like I said, we're going to have Ms. Boddicker on Monday. We're going to have Mr. Good on Tuesday, and then I have Jennifer Woods at Harvest House. We're going to take a little break from politics for about 2 or 3 shows. Thank you, Taylor. And
Thanks, Taylor.
We'll see you later.
Thank you.